Hey guys, Hybrid here. Today I'm going to talk about why people seem to not like Man of Steel. Now, I got this thing and I got this idea because I was watching a video that someone made which was they were defending Man of Steel and they were trying to be unbiased, but it was really obvious they were being biased because they weren't really defending Man of Steel more than just supporting criticisms of Man of Steel instead of, bringing up the flaws of Man of Steel. And I think that the movie was good for what it is. Like, if you checked out my review, I gave it a good score. At the time when I first came out of it, obviously I was on the movie high. I thought it was like a really, really great movie. Now, after having digested the movie more, I think it's still a good movie. It's enjoyable. Like, it does have its flaws. I think the big flaw it has, which really not ticked people off, but really like kind of made people look the other way on this movie, is what they hammered on you. So, Superman in this movie, he saves people. He does have moral struggles, and he tries making the best decision. There's nothing that says that killing somebody is wrong morally. Murdering somebody in cold blood is wrong, yes. When Superman killed Zod, that was not in cold blood. Whatever people want to be, heroes kill all the time. Like, to say like Zod couldn't be killed by Superman is kind of hypocritical of then supporting militaries going across seas, because at the end of the day, they're pretty much doing the same thing. They're defending their home. And as Superman was doing, he was defending, first off, he was defending the people on Earth, and also he was defending himself. So, yeah, so I guess technically, if they tried putting Superman on trial, it'd be self-defense. But, moving on from that, because I don't feel like getting into a debate, because I already know people are commenting, they're like, oh, you're so wrong, Superman, there's always another way. There is always another way, and if you pay attention, this is a great way to set up for them installing a Superman, that kind of code of, there's always another way besides killing, because obviously you saw he was very upset about it and very distraught over what he had to do with Zod. Even though in his defense, in that type of situation, there's only so much you can do. Like, you're really acting on impulse. You don't have time to really plan things out. But moving on, anyways, what I do have to say, though, is, alright, so what I do have to say is the reason why this movie, I think, really did not click with a lot of people is because, like I said, Superman did save people. He tried his best to do the right thing, and all that good stuff. But he kept on. Alright, so one thing this movie had a lot of is fight scenes. It's a big problem people had that wasn't in the first movie. In this movie, they really made up for that with all the fight scenes and action. Now, the problem with that, though, is that they had so much of it that when you left the movie, all you remembered was the fight scenes and the destruction and Superman just, fighting and all that stuff. And all that violence, I think, is what really turned people off, if that makes sense. Because when people think about Superman, they don't think about, violence, Batman, fighting. Because that's more like Batman, Wonder Woman, the other superheroes. Because Superman's so powerful, he doesn't always have to really fight people. Usually it's one of those things where he just kind of has to talk someone out of it, calm them down. Or when he appears, people just kind of give up because they're like, it's Superman, what are we going to do? But in this one, we didn't have that problem. We had 3 Kryptonians fighting him, at least. That, he had to actually fight back. And I think the destruction of that, even though the destruction was very overhyped, looking back on it now, there wasn't that much destruction as people made it out to be. But still, they hammered it on you, this destruction, this, violence, all that. So when you walked out, that's what you carried with you. And I think that really conflicted with what people generally associate with Superman. And that's why people had so many complaints about Man of Steel. Because the science fiction Krypton aspects, that's pretty cool. The suit, yes, while the suit was a little bit too dark, I kind of let it go eventually just because, it's still Superman, at least, like, in design. At least they didn't go, like, with some radical change, like, remove the S. Like, they just gave it a darker blue. I could live with that for now. But, yeah, it's just, I think people were way too hard on this movie. Looking back on it, I think people are definitely way too hard on this movie. Is this movie, like, the greatest thing ever? No. But is it the worst thing ever? No. It's a good movie. It's a decent movie, like, it's a movie you could watch, and just relax, Now, does the movie take itself a little bit too seriously at times? I do think it does, but the movie is trying to convey a message of how Superman would be in the real world, and I think there's goods and bads to that. Because the good thing, because the goods to that is yeah, people wouldn't be really trusting of him, and it probably would be a very if more Kryptonians came, it probably would be really destructive like that. Think about how powerful they are. You don't expect them to just take out a playground, do you? Obviously buildings are gonna get trashed, IHOPs are gonna get destroyed, IKEAs, whatever have you. But I think the bad about that is that it is impossible. So you can only take it so seriously without taking the fun out of it. So I think the reason why people don't like Man of Steel, and I'm not answering for everybody. I'm just saying why I think a majority of people don't like Man of Steel. And the reason is because even though the qualities of Superman are there, in his defense, most people when they start being a superhero, they fight small crooks and then build their way up to the big bad. Superman started straight up big bad. 3 big bads actually. He didn't even have a little crook to defeat. He started, from the top, and that's it. So in his defense, he did kind of do the best he could, without, I guess, having any experience prior to. But yeah, the biggest problem I think is that when you walk out of the movie, the one thing you remember the most is the action, the fighting, and the violence and destruction. And I think that doesn't really resonate with Superman all that much as it may with another hero, other heroes. And I think that kind of turned people off in a sense, because yes, he, like I said various times already, he does save people. He does, do Superman associated things that most people know Superman does. But just the fact is, it's simple psychology. When you reinforce certain things, people are going to remember those more. And same thing. People aren't going to remember the middle of the movie as well as they're going to remember the beginning and the end. What was in the beginning of the movie? Destruction of Krypton, fighting, violence. What was at the end of Man of Steel? Destruction, fighting, violence. So you see what I'm talking about here? It's just that I feel like they just had too much oversaturation of that certain thing in the film, and that's what people left and took with them. And when they look back at the other Supermans that they liked, the other Superman media, yes, Superman fights giant robots in comics and cartoons, what have you, but I just think how personal it looks, especially with hand-to-hand violence with another Kryptonian, and the amount of it we had in this film, I just think that was a little too much for certain people to really put with Superman. And I kind of understand where they're coming from. So comment below what your guys' thoughts. If you liked Man of Steel, what did you really like? What things did you not like about Man of Steel? Do you agree with me? Do you think that one reason this movie is so critically looked on, harshly at least, especially by the fan base, is because of how much violence and destruction they had in the film, and how much they reinforced it versus the other positive qualities of Superman? Because I think if they took a little less of that fighting, that violence, that destruction, and they reinforce more of the good morals, characteristics that he did seem to have in this movie, I think a lot of people's opinions would be turned around. And obviously also if they would kind of chill with the darker, not darker, but the more it's called the gritty filter, but it's the reason why his suit looks so dark. If they chilled with that too, I think that would have also helped. I'm not saying to have this type of blue, but just it was a little bit more lively and colorful, more hopeful looking, I guess. That would help, because this movie had a lot of despair going on, a lot of dying and all that stuff. Between Krypton and the Zod trying just to kill all the humans. So yeah, comment below. Blah, blah, blah. I can't believe I just did that. Comment below your guys' thoughts, and I'll see you guys later.